What you read there, Shades? Is that Backcountry's book?
Yeah, it's good. Got anything better to do, Satan?
No, I'm watching both of you 24/7, 365. I always push for 666 days in a year, but it didn't happen. God got in the way.
Yeah, he works in mysterious ways. He's the HP for a bunch of us booze hounds and addicts.
I really like your Kiss poster. Shades, Knights in Satan's service, the Nazi lightning bolts for the S's. Well, they didn't really mean for it to be that way, but that's how it is. ACDC, after Christ the devil comes. That's right. By the way, I was with Stu the whole time from Shanghai to Kurdistan. That's why I really turned up the heat. That snake you saw, that was me.
You haven't even written a book. Maybe some of your misguided disciples like Anton LaVey carried all that out for you.
Well, I can't write.
That's on you. Now let me get back to this.
I'll be waiting for you to fall, Shades. Crawling around that bathroom floor, hugging that toilet, driving the bus, puking your guts out. Yes, I will be seeing you.
Well, good luck. I got an episode to do. Get out of here. Okay. How are all my people doing out there? Shades of Clarity channel. And it occurred to me, and this is basically for all my 5 new subscribers that I have, that I haven't told my story or, you know, let anybody know what happened. And what I'm going to talk about is the 2 times that I got the most blitzed, wasted, crushed, 3 sheets to the wind, drunk. And it was awful. It was awful, and I'll never forget it. The first time, I had been playing golf with a friend of mine. It was Thanksgiving Day, probably 2012 maybe. Might have been a little bit earlier than that, but it was Thanksgiving Day. We met up, teed up, hung out. We were drinking beer. Like the whole time we were playing, the swing started getting a little bit worse, and I was weaving a little bit. Then we stopped off at the clubhouse when we made the turn on the back 9, and I said, I'm gonna go get a bunch of wine. And he's like, I don't never drank red wine. I'll drink it with you while we play. So I got like this tall cup of red wine. I mean, the cup was probably about like that big. So it was holding probably half a bottle, and I think he got just as much as I did. So we're playing, we're having a good time. I mean, just laughing it up or whatever. Just awesome. Playing just got worse and worse. He's weaving the golf cart up, you know, like an S turning off the path into the grass, back onto the path. He couldn't putt for anything, neither could I. So anyway, we finished the round. And he's like, well, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I don't know, maybe go home. Hey, you wanna play another round? Or at least 9 more holes? I think it was 9 more holes. So I was like, yeah, let's play. Let's stop off and get a little bit more wine. What do you think? Yeah, he was down with it, man. I mean, we were ready to go. So we get the first tee, we're drinking. So by this time we had gotten really, really intoxicated. I mean, really, really just shit-faced. Could not hit the ball worth a shit. I'm hooking the ball. He's slicing the ball into the woods, knocking the ball out of bounds. I mean, we were laughing and just like, man, that sucks, but it's fun, isn't it? I mean, we were losing balls, you know, good balls that aren't cheap. Losing them left and right, just digging into the bag every time we lose a ball. I think we ran out of balls. I know I dunked a couple in the water. And so we get to like the 6th hole, and I can't swing the club, I can't stand up. I mean, it was just terrible. He's like, man, we gotta quit. I'm like, yeah, we're fucked up. So we decided to head back to the clubhouse, and I think he drove me back to his brother is like my really good friend, and I kept drinking there. They had beer. I mean it's Thanksgiving, you know, the holidays and everything. Why not tie one on? Why not get just totally ripped? So I was drinking there, and went into like what Slayer's over is like I faded to black at some. I think I told them I had to go outside. They had a deck at the time. I pissed off the deck and then crouched down, and I think at some point I passed out, crouched, and fell forward into the grass, and they came out and they're like, oh my god, I think he's dead, call the paramedics. The paramedics show up. I'm laying sprawled out, like facing the stars. I mean, just totally passed out, and they slapped me on the face. You know, hey, do you know who you are? Yeah, I'm Shades. And, you know, what day is it? Who's the president? I mean, they asked me, you know, kind of assessment questions, you know, and they asked me if I wanted to go to the hospital, and I said, nah, I feel okay. I mean, I don't know how. I sobered up pretty quick, and I was awake, and I caught a ride back. I was living in Wilmington at the time, I think, and I was visiting home for Thanksgiving. And my buddy Gate was nice enough to give me a ride back to here, at my folks' house, and I passed out, woke up. I didn't have a hangover, and it was red wine. I don't know why. The second time, and this led up to the detox before my final detox, the one that landed me at that treatment center back in, I want to say it was April, or it was early in the year, and I started drinking wine again. And also, I haven't said, I'm on a Valium taper because they put me, and that's a dialogue for another day, but I'm telling you this, to be honest, they had put me on Valium to try to keep me off alcohol, and it probably wasn't a good idea, so I'm tapering now, and it'll probably be several more months until I'm off. But Valium has the distinct great quality of stacking in your system because the half-life is so long. So you'll take a dose every day, and I'm on a fairly low dose, like 10 milligrams, but it stacks in the system, and it stacks because it has active metabolites, and the half-life of one dose of 10 milligrams is probably in the neighborhood of 80 to 90 hours. Librium is a little bit, I think Librium is a little bit longer. Valium is just a little bit, it might be a little, the half-life might be a little bit shorter. So I had this stacked up in my system. Well, I was going and drinking those fruity wines. At the time, I don't know what the hell they're called. I find these dusty boxes like all over the place. Stuff I've stashed, forgotten about. Just didn't want to, I was lazy. Didn't want to throw it away. Shit under the bed in the back room where my guitars are. I'm still finding it. It's horrible. It's just such a shit we do, I swear. So anyway, I commenced to drinking. I don't know how many of those things I drank. And that combination of what the Valium that I had taken plus what was stacked up in my system damn near overdosed me, because my dad looked over, he was watching TV, I was on the sofa and slept, and he kept calling to me, and I didn't respond. So he went over, slapped my face a couple times like that. Jade, wake up. No response. So he talked to my mom. He's just like, I don't know if he's breathing or not. We better do something. So they called 911. Here comes the cops. Here comes a nice drama scene out in front of the house. The paramedics show up. The police show up. And I'm just, well, they couldn't. they were asking me questions, and I was just a slobber mouth. But I had just nothing but just gibberish and shit was coming out of my mouth. I had a mouth full of shit. And they strapped me into that meat wagon and drove me 20 miles to the New Bern, a hospital there. I think it's Carolina Regional Medical Center, I think. So I'm in the emergency room. I finally, like Slayer, you know, after fading to black, it's like I came to, you know. All of a sudden, I'm awake, and they told me that I had passed out, and then the doctor, I guess my old man had a bottle of Valium, and they had taken my blood, and I did a urinalysis and everything. They said, you got a lot of Valium in your system, and you got your blood alcohol level was like 0.26. They said you could have lost your life. You could have quit breathing or gone into a coma. And those are the only, and then that led to social worker coming and talking, because they weren't gonna discharge me, because he said, I can't give you anything because you have this Valium. And he said, you can try to take that to get off of this if you go into alcohol withdrawal. And I've become refractory to Valium. It doesn't work for me for withdrawal. It's like I have to have something stronger. The Valium just doesn't work anymore. The Klonopin didn't work. So I'm like, well, what are my options? Well, they got a bed at the treatment center. Down to the treatment center I go. I think I stayed 9 days detoxing. They use phenobarbital there. God, that has a long half-life. 100 hours, like one dose, and it stacks. They just pump you full, and then they taper you down. And I was in there, and it was a pretty chill crowd. I think I had a good roommate. I usually kind of click up with people. I don't have any kind of problem in detox, like being friendly with people. But those were like the 2 times, like the worst times. And then, of course, I came home and then ended up having to go back to the last relapse, the treatment center in Raleigh, a mental health treatment center. I had a pretty good, you know, I did have a difficult detox, was back, and here I am. I got everything in here in my little room. Got my douche tuber light back there, as Casey from Camera Conspiracies would say. And I'm just doing this thing, trying to get better at making the content better. But with that, I've been running my mouth, plus the intro, all that. Just wanted to talk to you about some alcohol. Stay away from it, people. You gotta quit. If you want to quit, quit. If you're in withdrawal, hang on. If you're unmedicated, I know you're feeling bad, you'll make it. Once you make it, know that it doesn't get any better. And with that, stay tuned. Come back. And I'll see you later.